Hi, so welcome back to Hind's Feet, and this evening I am going to be talking to you about what to say when you finally meet your birth mother. I'm going to take you through what happened and the process that enabled me to be able to meet my real mum. Well, person that gave birth to me. So yeah, come with me and let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to just very quickly go through the process of what happened in the lead up to meeting the person that had given birth to me. So I was going to be 25 in a few days' time, and I thought, do you know what? If I don't do it now, I'll never do it. I had actually gone to do it when I was 18, but there was a programme in England called, in Britain, called EastEnders, and the character Shan had traced her natural mother and it hadn't worked out, so that kind of put me off for another 7 years. So what I did was I went through to Edinburgh and I looked at this. They bring out this book, I'm not lying, it's like this, it's like from Harry Potter kind of wizarding books, right? Massive big book, and the lady brought it out with her gloves on, you know, that you see in the DNA programs, and flicking over these, well, not flicking, turning over these huge, you can't see me, huge pages, and it was all like with ink and stuff. So you look in that, and basically it gave an address. So took that information down, obviously, drove back to Glasgow, and when I got back I was all excited and I was like, oh gosh, right, okay. So I looked up the number, the address in the phone book, had phone books in those days, and woe behold, it was actually there, and I was like, oh no, nightmare. So what I did was I thought, well, I'm not going to go because I'm too scared, and my heart was like bum 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 bum. And anyone that knows me knows how impulsive I am, and I think that's, you know, I do things and then I think later. And so I literally phoned the number, and it was a guy, an old guy answered it and said Shan residence. So I knew that basically they still lived there, and this was obviously my grandfather that had left this message on the answer machine, and even that was really weird. I remember phoning it back 3 times just to hear what his voice was like. And anyway, so I decided to jump in the car and drive across to Mccomb, which it's about half an hour from where I had been brought up. And yeah, so I went over, and again, had no intention. Well, I did. I had the intention of walking up, but I thought, that's fine. Answer machine was on, they're not in, we'll be all good. So I got out my car and I walked over, and it was really strange because you're in this place that you knew that your kind of like real mum or whatever had walked. She would have walked up the road, she would have gone in this gate, she would have touched this gate. I mean, it's really weird, the things and the thinking that goes through your head. So I walked up to the door and I knocked on the door, and lo and behold, it was like the shaded glass, and I saw someone walking, and I was like, oh no, nightmare, because I really didn't think anybody would be in. And anyway, this old lady comes to the door, well, she's like sort of in her 60s, whatever, 70s, and I'll never forget it. This lady came and I said, oh, are you Liz Shan's mum? And she said, yeah, I am. And I was like, oh, you don't actually know me, but you don't actually know me. And I said that 3 times. I said, but I'm the daughter that Elizabeth had. And she was like, she was really nice actually. She was like, oh, come in. And I was like, oh my gosh. So in I went and I followed her. And she, I said I was just wondering if I could have Elizabeth's number. just to phone her, do you think that would be okay? And she was like, well, I'm actually going down this weekend. We actually only go once a year, and we're going down. This was on the Monday. She said, we're actually going down on Friday, so wait and I'll speak to her face to face, and then we can take it from there. And so she gave me a photo, a graduation photo, and I was like, it was like looking in a mirror. Which again was really, really weird. I could very much see her in me. And so I left, and I was like, bye, blah, blah, blah. And then I was coaching the Scottish national squad, the next master squad, the next weekend. And on the Sunday morning, I got a phone call about 7:30, and I was meant to leave at 8 to go to this day's training. And she phoned to say hi, and that her mum had told her what, and we chatted, and I was late for my coaching, but we arranged that I was going to go down. So this was a Sunday morning. I was going to go down on the following weekend. Now I thought she lived down in Derby, and I'm from Glasgow, so it was a case of getting the train, a couple of trains. And so I thought I better not drive, because it's probably not safe to drive. And I got the train down, and it was weird knowing that I'm 3 stops away, I'm 2 stops away from, being able getting off and actually seeing the person that gave birth to me. It is a really weird situation to be in. Anyway, so I finally get off the train, and she stood there, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know, she gave me a big hug, and I was kind of like, the way that you sort of, where you're not really responding. And we went back to hers, and of course, as I've said before, you have all these questions. And she said, I realise you're going to have all these questions. If you want to ask me, go for it. And I remember asking, like, do you know who my dad is? And she said, yeah. And she said his name. And but I think he's died. I was like, great. And then she went on. I said, so what happened? And she said that she was at a party, and I was like, oh, is that when I was conceived? And she said, oh, I don't know, I was off my face. And I was just like, okay, thanks, that's great. And that is a real shock, because you have this, as I say, this fairy tale, this picture in your mind of what she's like, what the situation was like, how you actually came into the world. And the fact that you were given away is crap enough, but actually the fact that you're then hearing that she didn't know if that was the case. And so basically, in other words, she might as well have said, no, you weren't conceived in love. It's pretty obvious. So anyway, she then told me the story of having to wheel me along and put me in the nursery thing and literally walk out the hospital, and how she'd never forgotten about me, and etc, etc. And it's really, it's weird. I was like, my stomach was churning, and I went to bed that night after having, it was heavy duty, and it was kind of like 8 hours of sort of questions and getting answers, and well, this is what I do, and what's your jobs, and then obviously she said that she had 2 other girls, and she kept them. I was like, great. And we were actually going to be going to meet them the next day, which again is just like, you've got 2 siblings, and 2 half sisters, and you're going to go and meet them, and actually that's something that hadn't been in the equation for me. I guess, I don't know why that was, but I hadn't really put much emphasis on that. It was more about, my mum. But what was really, really weird was that I think I got upset at one point and she gave me a hug, and I'll never forget it. And this is what is really, really weird. She gave me a hug, and the way that I was lying was on her chest, and I could hear her heartbeat, and that heartbeat really calmed me down. And it was the strangest thing ever. But, you know, it just, I kind of thought, well, that is what I've heard when I was inside her tummy. Obviously that heartbeat was the constant, that was the rhythm, that was my life. And so therefore it's really, you know, weird how, not weird, but it was just really, really, it was weird, it was unusual. It's unusual to be in that situation where you have this thing, this trigger that does and has that effect. So yeah, I mean, basically, after that, we ended up, I went back to Glasgow and I came back up on the train. I remember some Christian friends came to get me, a pastor's wife and her friend, and I just remember getting back into Glasgow, and I was literally just felt like my whole world had blown up. Totally, whole world. It was like this black hole, because everything I'd held on to in my life up until that point was like this bubble, and that bubble had just burst, and had burst with not nice things in my head at the end of it. It was basically, it backed up this bit of, like, you know, oh, I was off my face, I don't know. In other words, yeah, you weren't anything special. And all these things that I'd kind of like fed myself, and I did live off the, well, I'm not good enough, I'm not all the, and all these things that I've kind of gone into in other videos. That just basically clarified, yeah, you know, you weren't worth anything. That's, you know, and it was really, really hard. I'm not going to lie, I kind of like spiraled into kind of depression. And the thing that made it even worse, as I've explained in other videos, you know, I have a sort of volatile, abusive relationship with my adopted parents and my brother. And I had been told before I went down to England that I can't have two families, and that I have to choose one of them. I can't have two. So I was put in this situation again where it was just like, this is just so hard, because I had, in a sense, not chosen that family, but I needed to know, I needed to have some answers, but those answers had blown up. And I knew, having had no sympathy through my brother abusing me, and not even a, how are you doing? Are you okay? You know, that was known about and nothing was said. So it was obvious I wasn't going to have any emotional support from the people that are meant to care about me. So yeah, I had sort of stepped out of the frying pan into the fire, and I was basically in flames, and there was no one that was going to come and help me and be with me. And that was a really, really hard time in my life. And although I knew of God, I didn't know God. He wasn't like my best friend at that point. He wasn't somebody that I could sort of rely on at that point in my life. It was more like he was the big vending machine in the sky that if I needed something I could ask. But a lot of the times when I'd asked for stuff, it hadn't happened. And here was another, such a major, huge part of my identity, everything I was, everything I am. So yeah, that had sort of come crashing down. And since then, after I met my two half-sisters the following day, obviously back to Glasgow, just told you what happened, and we arranged to go away. But what happened was that the roles were reversed. So I was making all the effort, I was making all the running, but there was not really that much effort from her part, and I just ended up that I was absolutely devastated and I couldn't do it because it was just too hard. So I pretty much cut all ties, and I haven't seen her or the half sisters for well over sort of 12 years, 13 years at least. So yeah, that was my story. But the good news is that at the end of all that, I and through all the hurt and the pain and the kind of like never wanting to address the elephant in the room, which is adoption, and the situation, I have now learned. 2 years ago, I learned this is why I am the way I am, and this is what I'm going to be talking about and looking at different aspects. And the only way I can do that is by share what happened for me and my experience. So the next video I'm going to do is I am going to look into how God was included in all this and what happened and what God has done in my life, and how all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. Jeremiah 29:11. For you know the plans I have for you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Now, if you'd asked me when I was 25, have you got plans? Have you got hope for the future? I'd be like, no. And I would just, I really, really spiraled out of control. And bear in mind, I had been to Bible college by this point. I'd been to Bible college, I'd come out, I'd got a job, I was teaching swimming, then I was coaching swimming, and I got quite high up, and then I traced this person, and then it just went so yeah, but stay with me, come back for the next episode where basically I am going to be sharing with you the good news of how Jesus came and he brought me up from the dust. And he really healed me, and yeah, I am a totally different person now. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe if you want to hear my next chapter. Okay, bye, take care.